right, I've hit go. So, round one of YCS Dortmund. We're out here. We're back from COVID. I'm going to adjust the volume and totally not break character.
So, round one of the
YCS. Right. Okay, we're gonna have to cut the
And
game
it goes
sound,
right back down again.
That is mixed very nicely. It's round one. Everyone's out here in Germany. It's be a good time. I'm joined by Pete across from me in the casting booth.
Lovely to be here, Tom. Excited. She said, weather's wonderful, players focused. I think it should be a fantastic first game.
Yeah, like, what a way to start. The biggest YCS of all time. We keep setting records on records on records. Dortmund is no different. We saw at the bottom there, 2,560 players. And a mirror match of the deck of the weekend. Shizu Tielemans, freshly released out of Magnificent Mavens. We'll waste no time. Dennis gets started terraforming into primeval planet Perlino, which gets his Tielemans strategy started right off the bat.
I mean, this is what we, of course, would like to see our players waste no time in getting themselves accounted with all of the newest tech. It's what it requires to be a player at this kind of level.
Yeah, if you're going to a YCS, generally, you're well versed in your own strategy. So we start to see the common surprise in the Tielemans deck, the ability to play on your opponent's turn before things have even got started. Tielemans Havnis responding to Rhino Heart summoning itself out will send 3 cards as both players immediately fill up their graveyards. This deck has complete gas. Graveyard effects trigger immediately as we see Christopher ordering his chain. He's going to try and snipe. There we go. He's targeting. Oh gosh, and the Bestial backwards and forwards. So the Bestial removes the card from the graveyard, Christopher's graveyard, while protecting Dennis's. Just wants to keep all of their cards in the right place. The Beaver going to the graveyard summons 2 copies of itself from the deck. And before his opponent has even finished his main phase, Christopher, on his turn 0, has filled his own board.
I mean, obviously, Tom, obviously, what do you expect from players like this? I think this is going to be, nightmarishly strong from beginning to end. Just can't wait to see what Christopher's got for us.
He's before he's even started, he's summoned his own monsters and then had them removed with Primeval Planet Perlino. Dennis reaching for his extra deck here. The big part of the Tielemans strategy is fusion summoning when you send those cards to the graveyard. You can also see an Abyss Dweller poking out the top there. That's a sort of rank 4, very easy to go into. Rhino Heart, normally one of the materials there that locks your opponent out of the graveyard for their entire turn. So clearly on these players' minds, the card highlight here, the Bestial Druid Swarm. So good, and you see you just banish light or dark monsters from either graveyard, and if you do, special summon this card. Then if your opponent has a monster, which somehow Christopher has managed this early in the game, you can already start to take pieces away from your opponent. Dark, the summoner there, a link monster, so an example of you just have to send 2 monsters from your field to the graveyard that fulfill its requirements, goes into the extra monster zone, and lights up 2 zones below it if you wish to keep link summoning further.
All right, we can still see there's a good amount in the hand of Christopher L, even if it's a strong start from Dennis. See, Christopher looks unflustered, thorough brow of concentration. This is no time to be losing your cool.
What an unusual feeling to have to check your graveyard and field that is already active before you've even started your first main phase. We're going to see Christopher start to rely more on the Ishizu cards. These are the newer guys. They do start to play around some of that Bestial graveyard interaction we've come to see in the format before this by being Earth themselves and manipulating the graveyard. So it's a pretty common theme I think we're going to see this weekend. We still see the Druid Swarm, however, maybe a slightly reduced Bestial package this weekend. Foolish Burial will force the Tielemans into the graveyard, and with Havnis back there, we'll start to trigger some of those effects all on our own. We see the shuffle, 2 Tielemans back. That means we're going to see Kit Kalos hit the field. And when she comes out, she starts to search out from your deck with the threat of moving herself to the graveyard, milling 5 cards. And that's the steam you need in this mirror match to get above and ahead of your opponent.
Oh my gosh. It really takes me back, Foolish Barrel. It's been around for such a long time.
It's still there.
No, it's still a problematic card. I remember when it was first released, people would always look at each other and say, send me a card to the graveyard. I'd have to use up a card to do it. That sounds rubbish.
Little did they know. It would stand the test of time. Right, Kit Kalos sends herself to the graveyard to special summon another Tielemans. And when she does, He sends 5 cards from the deck to the graveyard. Really unlucky there. We see some technology out from Christopher. The mass change to summon Master Hero Darklaw, which just means your opponent's anything that goes to the graveyard is banished. Anything they add to hand starts a roulette that they lose a card from their hand. That's gone now. That'll be in the graveyard. Instant fusion as well. A way to summon Kit Kalos off the top with no requirements. Also lost to the graveyard, but he's hit a tournament name. He's hit an Ishizu card. That means he's ready to play with that second deck that sits just in front of his first.
It's honestly delightful. I'm so glad that actually, you know, the place that Yu-Gi-Oh! Has ended up. We've still got cards like Terraforming in the mix. There's so much fundamental played. You mentioned the instant fusion there as well. Gosh, I remember when people started using that one as well, and I was like, that seems like a silly thing. Now how silly we all look in retrospect.
Yeah, it turns out if they print some really good level 5 fusion monsters, they get incredible. We'll see another shuffle back there. It includes the Kit Killer, so instead we're going to go up into something else here. Shuffle that back. You can use it as a resource again and again and again. The Garura just needs 2 monsters of the same type, not the same attribute. Or is it? No, same attribute and not type. So we've got a Spellcaster and an Aqua monster.
I get confused as well.
It's alright. Card text off the top of my head, not always 100%. And when it leaves the field, it draws you a card, so allows you to keep playing forwards without having to, exhaust your extra deck. That right there, Pete, something you might not have seen before. Those 2 cards in the middle are actually the same. However, on the left, the Starlight rarity, the new sort of chase thing that's come out from Yu-Gi-Oh! And when you summon the Dark Charmer, you can pick a Dark Monster in either player's graveyard and summon it to your field.
I don't know if, Tom, you're familiar with the term of semantic satiation.
If
you say it enough times, it stops really having meaning. So the dark is really darkening our doors.
Little did you know, it goes even further. So the monster summon the Sprite Sprint is a 2 of 2s. It can be can be level 2, so fusion or normal monster. It could be Link 2, like the Dark Charmer. It could be rank 2. There are some ranks in this deck. I'm not going to sort of give away everything the players might be hiding. But yeah, so we got.
Well, I mean, I feel like a rank. I feel like a rank amateur right now. Honestly, Tom, I really do.
All right, Christopher has spent his turn piling up his resources. We see a Rhino Heart out on the side as well. That's sort of the next level up tier fusion. You have to use a tier fusion and another monster. And we can see swinging in here for massive amounts of damage. I think, is that over 8,000? I think the Rhino has 3,000. Both players shuffling up, giving an indication that I'm slow on my maths today. Without a big flashy life point counter on Master Duel in front of me. That will be game 1 in quick fashion. That is not us on the screen, but hello, the German.
What? I mean, I'm the guy on the left. Who are you?
It's a beautiful mustache, Pete. Where did that come from?
Thank you. I've been cultivating it. I asked the Dark Charmer to do my garden and
pencil it in.
Yeah, it's because obviously the Bright Charmer wasn't available.
If I'm on the right, then I really like that tie. That's really snazzy.
No, I do as well. I think it's a. You see, I would felt a little bit like I was worried that it looked a bit like a waiter coming into this. So, but you look more like you might be a bank manager.
Dinner jacket sort of vibe going on. Not 100% behind it, but you know what? I can respect it. Both players reaching in for this.
Also like, I really like as well. I'm very talkative with my hands. That's my Italian heritage coming through. Sorry, you were saying, Tom.
No, right. Both players reaching for their side decks. We're not expecting too much to come in, just because I think both players were prepared for the mirror all weekend. The Ishizu Telemist strategy is just so powerful.
Well, talk to me, Tom.
Pretty much everything else.
Like we're in a situation here, mirror match against each other. Where do you kind of land on the whole, sliding in hate for the opposing deck versus trying to actively work around that same hate coming back towards you?
So the sort of problem with that in Ishizu is the best way to deal with everything else that has Ishizu, or we're in a very graveyard centric format with stuff like Sprite as well, bringing back multiple sort of recursions and bringing back material, that like there is nothing better than what you've got in your deck. You can maybe subtract some other cards going first or second that you know about. For instance, we saw like a Nimble Beaver hit the board there. early on. I'm not really sure if I'd keep that in if I know I was specifically not going for like generic power, but that I needed Ishizu, only Ishizu stuff. I might bring in some more generic removal, maybe something else that could banish it. If I had a Bestial package that was like on the slim end, maybe 1 or 2 cards out of the side deck. We don't have the player's side decks there, like those do. Sorry, deck lists like our 2 cheery chappies here might have been able to explain that away, but that's a problem of remote casting in practice, Pete. And we're straight on to game 2.
All right, I'm excited to see it. Honestly, the end of the last game really took me by surprise with Christopher L. You know, we got the inside line of Christopher L. We know he's a killer.
From nowhere, a huge swing. It's sort of the thing. Like, I think why many top players don't hate the Ishizu tier limit strategy is it very much is interactive. It's not like one player will lock out the other, snap, game over. I think Dennis maybe overextended himself to end on a Link to Your Monster that doesn't do anything on its own. But this time, he's extending it to the pieces that matter. Instant fusion. Off the top, you're going to pay a little bit of life, but instant access to Kick Alice.
I mean, you know, it's easy, Pete. It's a clear decision to make. Dennis knows he's fighting an uphill battle now. Playing, of course, from the red chair. Covered in the blood of his previous defeat, maybe.
I really think the Yu-Gi-Oh chairs are snazzy. Really
They
snazzy.
are. I would like one.
I've sat in one once, UK Nationals of this last year. You know, judge the speed duel finals in addition to the main event.
Ooh.
We put those on. You can see me looking very tired if you go back on that stream in the corner of a camera, just like, yeah, good job guys.
Oh,
that
boy.
was fast.
I've made some decisions to get here, and now I'm paying for them.
It's a long weekend, really long weekend. That's just because card games are so much fun. I think you have this massive celebration. I just love like tier 3 events plus. Right, okay, some cards I recognize milled away, some cards I don't. 2 triple tactics is pretty rough to mill away. You want to keep those for interaction with your opponent. And it's normally, you know, a going second card. We can see Christopher has it in his hand. So when your opponent tries to batter you back with a negate or something, you know, you can just it has some iconic effects you might have heard of, Pete. It does say on it, if your opponent has taken an action, choose one of these 3 things. Now, see if you can guess the card this is based on. Draw 2 cards.
Oh, could it be play this spell card to draw 2 cards from your deck?
Yep. It also
and resolve
says,
the plot hole or the writing into the corner that the writers did on that particular episode.
So yeah, you could play Pot of Greed.
It was going to be like Bubble Man.
No, it's Pot of Greed if your opponent has interacted with you this turn. It is also gain control of a target monster your opponent controls till the end of this turn.
Sorry, as well as drawing the cards?
No, you get to choose one of 3 options.
Oh, okay. It's a charm card, I get it.
Yeah, so you get like Pot of Greed, you get Snatch Steal. The third option is to shuffle back a card from your opponent's hand. So
one of your choice, or
it's a painful choice, that's for sure.
Oh boy, you got me, Oh,
right.
All right. Well, I know what terraforming is. So I know we've got our field spell out. So something which is separating this first game out from our game we saw before, of course, is, you know, in our first game we saw that there was kind of an equal level of interaction on both sides. But this time it's been all Dennis being able to operate pretty much as he wishes.
Yeah, Christopher not slamming things down off the board quite so quickly on sort of a pseudo turn 0 as Tillerman can do. Instead, 2 triple tactics in the hand. So he has got Keldo, so he's going to bring down some of the Ishizu cards nice and early before he's picked up his first. That will start to pick apart. I don't think it's the end of the world here for Dennis yet. I think it's still fine. He's still going to be able to fusion some. We see Keldo, another one of these Ishizu cards, out on the field. This card is sent from the handle deck to the graveyard. You can target one special summon monster your opponent controls. Special summon this card from your hand, return that monster to the hand. So it's sending the Havness away. And it's making sure that Dennis is going to have to work here if he wants to get to Rhino Heart, that monster that just shuts off so much what your opponent can do. Instead, by sending it away, Dennis has managed to go straight to Rukalos, another one of the newer Tillerman monsters that negates your opponent's summons. And then by summoning out the Rhino himself, the Abyss Dweller locks off Christopher's graveyard. He now has a massive uphill battle. 2 set cards as well. We did see a Sulliak in Dennis's hand early on. You may have heard of Book of Moon, Pete.
Book of Moon.
It's Book of
Why?
Moon, but it's pink. And it also says, after I've resolved, send a Tearlament card to the graveyard and start this massive chain of events.
Oh boy, Book of Moon was definitely one of those cards I very vividly remember as being a real tournament player's card. So I'm glad to see it survives in some kind of capacity. Flexibility over raw power every day.
It shows up every now and again. God, Christopher looks like he's struggling, doesn't he? That's a grimace if I've ever seen one. Is committing to a play. Oh wow, okay. Maybe those deck descriptions not being the biggest way. That's a Sprite Blue. So Christopher playing Ishizu Tier, but also a decent amount of Sprite cards. You'd only commit to blue if you're playing a decent amount of the rest of the engine. And this is the starter card. By linking it away here into dark, he hasn't got any of the graveyard effects, but he can summon from the graveyard. Rukolok looks like it's hitting Dark's effect to special summon another monster. He's going to try and negate and send the Dark away. Should now trigger its effect. The Tearlament's Merly sent for cost. This Tearlament's Rukolos out on the left. If your opponent would special summon a card, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. Then send a Tearlament's card from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard, which of course triggers its own effect to fusion summon again. The Tearlament's ability to just play on its opponent's turn. So incredible. As Rukolos is summoned, and we're going to see even more Tearlament things. Christopher's not even going to give his opponent any time. Look, he picks up his card and says, I'm going to game 3.
I mean, it's a throwback. It's a throwback for me. I certainly remember the days of the old Gladiator Beasts from way back when.
Very similar.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a thing as long as card games have been card games. There's always going to be an archetype which says, you don't get to play the game, you don't get to have any fun. Just give up and it'll go easier for you.
Christopher's still got that lead from game 1 though. He's sort of relied on that now and has put himself into game 3. So he's not out yet, even though Dennis really did well. Sort of assemble that strategy. I think drawing instant fusion just in your opening hand is such a power play. And it's one that has seen some sort of criticism from the community that maybe like, hey, like Kikalos, a very good card. Maybe we don't need to summon it for free.
I mean, maybe
sort of a fair option. Ooh, interestingly enough, we just saw Christopher shuffling away a Forbidden Droplets, which means he's probably going first. He's got a board in mind. Forbidden Droplets. Do you remember Forbidden Chalice?
Oh gosh, yeah, that was the. Oh, that was one of the newer cards.
Negates a monster effect and gives it 400 extra attack. So you can either use
That's
it on
right,
your own
yes.
monster to shove through and do some extra damage, or more normally, you take away your opponent's key effect, and they cannot continue to play like extra cards.
Well, I remember that the reason for the Chalice having the plus attack was to allow it to be used in the damage step.
Indeed.
Because it was an attack modifying card.
That is a very sneaky extra feature. Forbidden Droplets goes a step further. It's sort of the new edition, very recent. I think it's just over a year old at this stage. As we see Adam's beautiful face there on the top right. I see you, Adam, with your jet black hair watching that game. I don't know if you'll ever see this, but that's very exciting.
I mean, it's Ravens themselves are envious.
Clubs of Liverpool, watch out. Right. So Forbidden Droplet says it is a quick play spell. It says send a number of cards from your hand or a face up on your field to the graveyard and target that many monsters your opponent controls. Halve their attack so it can be used in the damage step. And then if you do, negate their effects. So it's sort of an all-encompassing chalice. And also, your opponent can't respond to the activation of Forbidden Droplets with any cards of the type you sent to the graveyard by its activation. So Monster Spell Trap, if you send 3 to target 3, your opponent can't touch it.
Wow, that is extremely filthy, but Power Creep,
it's a good card.
It's a real thing.
Definitely. All right, we're going into Game 3, the all-deciding match. I'm going to break immersion slightly. I think this is a bit of a longer game. This is more than I would expect from a Tearlament matchup. And it is nearly 9 p.m, Pete. Do you have to dash off?
We could do, say... Do you want to... I don't know. Do you feel like you've got enough material to work with?
Hell yeah. Absolutely. And then Yulwei is also wanted to do it. And I was like, Yulwei, do you want to do Friday? And he was like, no. I'm going out Friday. I was like, okay, you'll wait. You want to do an hour tonight? He's like, go on then. So,
Okay, cool.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a solid 20 minutes there, which is, I don't know if I'd edit it down, but Anna, if you're ever watching this, did you really watch the whole 20 minutes? Let me know. I'm cutting this bit off at the end probably, but let's face it, who actually watches that much? They just skip through.
Absolutely nobody.
Anna, if you are the person who watches 20 minutes, you're a very rare thing in talent management.
No, I honestly, I feel like, Anna, you're wasting your time. You can usually tell in like the first 20 seconds.
And I'm going to kill the clip.